All right, guys. Amster Knows Books back at it again with another video. But today we are back with number 3 in the debut collection, 200 Monas by Dan Saenz. Saenz? I don't know. I can't pronounce. Amster doesn't know pronunciation. This book, I'm going to try my best to say what this book is about without getting flagged by YouTube. Basically, this girl's mother passes away. She, the mom, left drugs behind. The daughter, in a very Uncut Gems-esque way, has a time ticker now to sell these drugs that can induce a large amount of pleasure, we will say, in 48 hours, or she will die. And this is all about that rush, that roller coaster to selling it. And it's also a book about grief and how do we deal with grief and confront it and all of that. This book, I think, is probably my second favorite of the debut books we've read so far. I do think Poet Empress is clearly better, but I do also think that this is significantly better than She Made Herself a Monster and shows, I think, more promise for this author. How would I describe this? I think her characters in this book are actually a lot of fun. Arvy, our main character, again, she's the one mainly dealing with the grief and having to sell all this stuff and trying, to finish college right at the end. And then we have the love interest slash drug dealer that helps her out in Wolf, who I think is also a super compelling character in a story that is very heavily featured on sexual themes. To have a male character, the way that he acts, I think is very important because I think he's very aware and he genuinely wants to be a good guy. Not saying that he ends up not being a good guy, but you know what I'm saying. He treats women with the respect. And we, as a man myself, we respect that. W-mans. I think this book does get a little jumbled up. I do think that the messaging about grief at times gets really sidelined for that, Uncut Gems roller coaster, go, 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 go. But when it does focus on the grief, I do think it's good. I think the problem just is that the percentage of here's the drug stuff is 85 to 90% of this book. And it's only 350 pages, but the text is huge. And then the 10 to maybe even 5% of the book that focuses on grief, I still think is pretty well done. But it never really, I don't think it ever reaches that balance that this story claims to have, right? And I did do reading vlogs for this book. And this is a reading vlog I think you'll see me lighten up on the book more and enjoy it more as it goes on. So in my, spoiler-free rating, I will give this a 3.5. Would I recommend this book to people? Honest to God, probably. Just because I think it is a funny premise, and the humor in the book is actually pretty good, at least to me. And as a, early 20s dude, I think she writes these early 20s characters relatively realistically without being cringe or just being these early 20 kids are all just brain rotting TikTok. No, she does a good job of the reality of things. There's some ditzy characters and goofy, funny, memey. Sure. Some of those characters are that. But they're not all that, and they're not, it's not their whole personality trait. I think overall this book does a really good job of portraying, these early 20s characters. Again, I think the themes and the plot at times, I think the balancing of this very dark idea of grief and this very light idea of everything else, I think struggled to mesh into one. So I do have to dock points for that. And I feel while this got compared to Uncut Gems, I actually had watched it relatively recently. That movie gave me damn near an anxiety attack because it was just every single second was go, 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 go. And when you thought you had that deep breath, then some other twist came in and you go, oh shit, we're only getting even worse. And that never quite gets there in this book. It starts to, and then it'll just kind of flatline. Not in a bad way, it just stops. That momentum, that anxiety-inducing feeling is gone. Then it'll go, 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 go. and then it'll just stop. I think it never keeps that momentum in a positive, like, and I mean that negatively overall, right? Like, it doesn't do that theme that it's trying to capture. But I also think it's positive because I think it helps me care about the characters and everything else. So that'll be really interesting. And if, I don't know, on Twitter or something, I saw Dan Saenz. Again, I'm so sorry, ma'am, if you were watching this. For the butchering of pronunciations, I know books, I know basketball, I do not know pronunciations. If I saw that she was coming out with another book, I would probably pick it up. If the premise was interesting. If it was another premise like this, I probably wouldn't, just because I have a feeling that she would struggle to balance it again. But I think her characters are really good. I enjoy her dialogue. I don't really care about prose. You guys know that. This is what it is. And I think the themes and stuff could be good. I just think she needs to focus her ideas into something more streamlined. So I'm giving this, guys, a 3.5 out of 5. I genuinely enjoyed this book. I would recommend it to people just to give it a chance. Like, if you don't love it, that's fine. It's 350 pages, but it's not really, because the text is like, I don't know, like humongous. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's huge. The humor is good. I enjoy it. But now we are going to get in the spoiler section, and I do have reading vlogs for this. So, thank you all for stopping by. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for those of you that have not read this book. Or those of you who don't care and want to just keep watching. Let's have some fun. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's have some fun.
So this is the first reading vlog for actually a debut collection book, 200 Monas. So I'm about 120 pages in. And this is, so obviously future me will have told you what the premise of the book and everything is, but I think Arv and Wolf as like a duo work really, really well together. Like, I think Jan does a excellent job with their dynamic. And seeing Wolf, like, go around this campus, and it's interesting because, like, how do I explain it? This world feels lived in to an extent of, like, there's this group called the Satyrs. We don't know nothing about them, but everybody else does. So it's like, you're like Arv. Like, you don't know what's going on. You don't understand when these people make these references, like, what this all means. We don't know. And then the dog getting killed, I was like, you're lucky John Wick wasn't there, because that dude John Wick would have found your ass. I will say, Francis Pete, that joke had me dying. It was like, my name is Francis Pete, like the Pope, but with Pete instead. I don't know why I found that so funny. It's so dumb. And my thought so far is the characters are good. I will say, so this book has been talked about, like, this, like, dueling narrative of, like, obviously there's the sexual component of the book, right? Like, her trying to sell this orgasm-inducing drug. But there's the grieving part. But I feel like the grieving part in the very first quarter, or not even, like, 15% of the book, was more present. But now we feel super, like, roller coastery in terms of, like, gotta sell this drug. We've gotta push. But I'm curious where the breakdown comes, because this is compared to Uncut Gems. In the description of the book, I think, or maybe it's a publisher who said it, and in that movie, there is, like, this at least, like, 10-15 minute thing where Adam Sandler kind of goes like, oh, like, there's a lot to this shit. So I'm curious for Arv when that moment will be where she can really have that, like, oh shit. But I love the interesting idea too of this, like, the funk and like how it would like mess up her mom and like how her mom would cope. I think that there's actually, like, I think Jan has some really interesting ideas. And like, so far, I do kind of imagine this like a movie in my head. So I think this is a good thing that this is greenlit. I think it says good things that this was greenlit as a movie, because that means I, as a viewer, can find that believable, because I, as a reader, already am. Like, I am having that internal picture. I will say that scene in the classroom was nuts. I was like, oh shit. I was going to say too, why was no one recording that? But I love the teacher's like, yo, guys, stop recording this. I was like, thank God this is realistic. I think Arf is pretty well waiting for a 20-year-old. I'm in that age demographic of, early 20s. I feel like there's definitely, someone my age, or around my age, talking. But yeah, actually, I'm having a pretty decent, enjoyable time with it so far. It's nothing insane. It's nothing gripping. It's not the Poet Empress. But I definitely do enjoy it more, I think, than she made herself a monster. But that's reading vlog number 1 for this book, guys. I'll probably get a good chunk in tomorrow, and then hopefully I'll be done by Friday. And then, yeah, we'll see where we go from there. But peace. All right, guys. So, reading vlog number 2 for 200 Monas. I am on page like 222 or something like that. I probably will read some more today, but I want to take a little break. And this story, I think, is actually doing some really interesting stuff in terms of, so obviously with Mona being like a pleasure-inducing drug, you could consider it a date drug. I'm going to put that in quotes because obviously YouTube will not let me use the other word, but you know what I'm implying. And I think it's really interesting because the male character is the one who is pointing this out and is trying to be like, hey, like, we can't just kind of be selling this to anybody, which I think is a really good, like, subversion and twist on it. Because it's also a male character doing it. Now, I'm not saying that it's, normal for guys to be selling stuff like that, but you kind of get my point. Like, I think that Jen's doing a really interesting job. The only complaint I have about the book so far is I feel like the grief stuff is just more of, like, how we got to this point with the drug. Like, I don't really feel like I don't, like, she is grieving. Like, I'm not saying that she doesn't feel anything in the character, but, like, it just feels so, like, secondary. And I think the problem is, like, it was almost, this book is almost, like, pitched as it being the primary thing with this inducing drug as, like, a byproduct of it. But I don't know. It doesn't really feel that way. I will say Wolf and RV's romance I actually really enjoy, because again, they challenge each other in different ways that I find really fun and interesting, and it makes me want to learn more about Wolf, because I am actually hyper curious about him and like his upbringing and how he got here. So again, I think that his stuff is good. I think the character work overall, again, I do think to some extent this actually very accurately captures a 20-something-year-old party in the big 26. But I also think, again, some of the side characters are like caricatures and stuff. We figuring out stuff about the Seder house, which is very messed up to me. But I think that's also kind of the point, right? Like, in some ways, this book feels like a satire. I don't know if that's necessarily the purpose, but I think it's really, really interesting commentary about, all of this sort of stuff. And I'm really, really intrigued about the mom, because of just like how much RV seems to think that her mom was so unhappy while she was alive, which is really, really sad to think about. But again, for a book that has a lot of humorous moments that actually do make me laugh, there is a very heavy, overlooming, like, cloud in this book. And I think that it's so, so interesting to see where this goes. So I'm actually pleasantly enjoying this book. The more and more I've gotten into it. Some of it I think is cool. It's whatever. But again, I believe this has been greenlit by Amazon, I think, or MGM, or somebody already bought the rights for it as a movie. And I think it's going to be a really, really good movie if they do it right. If they don't, I could be a little bit nervous. But very interesting so far. So, reading vlog number 2 complete for now. See you guys in the next one. All right, guys. So, it's been a day. I locked in. And 200 Monas is officially complete. Okay, immediate thoughts. I'm actually very happy I read this book. Because, okay, is it Poet Empress level in terms of a debut? No, I don't think so. Not even really close. Is it she made herself a monster where I was a little disengaged or disinterested? No, I wouldn't say that at all. But I think there was some plot stuff that was really, I don't know, like, okay. There was very rarely that feeling of uncut gems. The final 40 to 50 pages felt like that. Because, so you get the money from Wolf's mom. And you find out more about the Seder house and what she's trying to do and everything, which is interesting. But again, the problem is like, it feels like the book is in 500 directions. Like, this feels like 2 books in one. Because the grief and the narrative around it, I don't think was very well done. But the romance and the, like, this, like, almost like world building of these drug dealers and in this, like, campus, I think was actually really well done. I feel like, though, there's, like, 2 different stories that were attempted to be had. One got significantly less page time than the other. And it was just kind of like, and I wrapped it all together. I was like, nah. One, Wolf and RV are incredible. Like, so Dan Saenz, I don't know how to say it. As you guys have probably seen from all my other vlogs, my pronunciation, that's not my thing, dog. But she can write characters. And she actually does a pretty good job overall with dialogue, I think, too. So I think, like, she has very real potential. I just think for her, it's plotting that's going to be a bigger issue or whatever. And again, this book has been greenlit to be a movie. And I do think that, honestly, the movie might be able to do some of this stuff better than the book does. I will say there was a couple things to note. Francis Pete, fucking awesome. Every time he was on the page, I'm hooked. He's funny, but when he locks in and he has like this aura switch, incredible. I think that RV is like the great combo of like witty, but like she's smart but dumb. Like what I mean by that, she's very book smart, but I don't think she's very street smart. And I like how Jan does a really good job of contrasting those 2 things in certain moments. And I kind of love the very end, right? Like RV and Wolf are like kind of having one last little hookup before she goes on this internship. And the aunt calls to figure out where the fuck the dog went. I was like, oh shit. So overall, I actually am very, very happy I read this book and I gave it a chance and I kind of followed through on this idea. Because the concept of it just sounded so ridiculous. I had to check it out. But I think its absurd concept was crazier on paper than what we got in terms of the story. But the characters. Oh, I had so much fun, guys. I genuinely did have a really good, fun time with this book. The moment when Jan and Wolf, or not Jan, sorry, I'm thinking of the author now. When RV and Wolf finally hook up, is really powerful because you see how much like they genuinely want the other to feel that pleasure. And I think that's just a really important thing that's missing. Again, I haven't read a lot of romance stuff, but like even just in general, like sex and media is portrayed as very just like, and it happened and it's over. But I like that Jan sort of has these buildups of like, there's craving, there's lust and all that, but then there's the real passion and emotion that I think is really interesting. And then again, like seeing Rose and her impact, Rose being the mother of Wolf, and how like in some ways like her raising of Wolf has like emasculated him in some ways. But again, like I love the book to take a stance one way or another. Like it's not a very like uber super feminist book, but it also isn't like, and these issues don't matter for me. No. Like I think it does a really good middle ground. And like again, it is a very easy read, which I think is also a huge plus for me. Very easy to kind of lock in, page turner. So this is my final reading vlog. I hope future me does whatever he has to do, and you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Peace.
And we're back. So, I do think the stuff with Wolf and his mom was super interesting. And another negative I had is that I do think Wolf is a more interesting / compelling character overall compared to Arvy. Just because he seems to have way more going on in his past and what's going on and everything. Arvy is more compelling when it's the Grease stuff. Like, and I love, because I'm assuming that's what Jan is doing here. The depression angle of calling it a funk and like how bogged down someone can be by that, I think is excellent. Like I genuinely, and that's why I rated this book still like decently high and like almost gave it a 4, but I couldn't quite give it that. Is that like, that's so real. Like I have experienced the funk. I think every human being at some point has experienced it, whether it be for literally one day or a 40-minute stretch where you just feel down. The funk is such an incredible way to describe depression and anxiety and all these things. I was like, that's genuinely impressive for a debut author. To me. And now I gotta talk about my guy. Oh, the award system, guys. As always, I'm a basketball head. We are doing the award system. We have MVP. Most improved player will probably not be something for standalone books unless there's a character arc that happens in this book that goes from like, I hated this character on page to they were one of my favorites. We will do a 6-man. So a character that doesn't show up a lot, but when they do show up, I love it. I start laughing, enjoying my time. I'm like, let's go. We're getting another scene with them. So, the MVP of 200 Monas. This one's tough. Because the candidates for me, there's about 2 candidates, really. It's Arvy or it's Wolf. And I think I will end up giving Wolf the MVP. I think that what Wolf was able to do in his page time, whether it be, discussion of, like, my mom is basically running this crazy cult of, like, well, not cult. Well, yeah, it's kind of a cult of, like, strung up virgins and, like, trying to create this new wave of feminism and everything. So, like, she taught me of how to appreciate and respect women and all that. And some of that stuff, I think, shows throughout this book in a very positive way. Like, he wants consent for all this stuff. He wants to treat these women right. He doesn't want to go out of his way to, like, be disrespectful or rude. He doesn't ever, like, I think this is important, too. He never invalidates, really, Arvy's feelings about her situation. When he finds out more. It's hard for any human, whether you're a dude or a woman, to, accurately respond to someone in distress if you don't have a context of what's really going on. Where, like, Arvy doesn't tell him right away, like, this dude, I'm about to be murdered in 48 hours, so we have to sell these drugs. It's like, no, we have to sell these drugs because I need this money. So, I think Wolf throughout this book is so compelling and so interesting, and their romance is actually really good. That's the other thing I wanted to say is Jane does a really good job of writing that main romance. Like, it felt natural, and it felt smooth, and it felt lustful in many ways, right? Like, there is a base of, like, passion in it, but you can also tell there's a genuine love and care for each other that's there, and I think is really good. Then, the sixth man of the book, Pete Francis, or Francis Pete. Oh, bro. When one of his first lines is, "My name is Francis Pete." It's like the Pope, but instead of Pope, you put Pete. I knew this was my guy. He is a terrible guy. He does murder a dog, and I do not condone that. But fuck, he's so funny. And seeing his care for Marge and wanting Marge to be happy and Marge being in a funk, I think is also extremely compelling character work. Because this is not something that usually is done in these sorts of books. So I think overall it's a really excellent job of a antagonistic force while still kind of keeping with the tone of the world. Because again, he does kill the dog. He has put a gun in her mouth. Like, he is shown to be deadly. Like, he's not a pushover villain. But at the end of the day, he just genuinely care. And I think that stuff is really, really impactful to me. The coach of the year is going to be Rose. Because I think Rose taught even me as a reader a lot about some of these dynamics and thought processes. And I don't know, there was just a genuine learning. Now, some of it is crazy and funny and goofy for sure. But seeing her influence on Wolf, but also what Arv at first kind of sees in a possibility of another mother, I think is incredible. I think, guys, that this book is really well done. I know it's not a high rating, and I think this is something that we need to address as a booktube, book talk, or whatever community. Something can be a 3 stars and above, like a 3.25, 3.5, 3.75, 4, and still be a really good or enjoyable book. Just because it isn't a 5 doesn't mean that I don't enjoy it. At no point with 200 Monas was I like, oh my God, I gotta read this book. No, I enjoyed reading it. I knew what it was, and I took it for that, and I thought it was fun. And this book is getting a movie, and I'm going to watch the movie, and I probably will try and make a video about the movie if it comes out anytime relatively soon. Probably not, and kind of compare it to the book and what I think it does better and worse and all that. I genuinely think that this was a really, really good debut, and I think that Jan has my interest. So for those of you that got this far, that have read the book, let me know what you guys think down below. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate each and every one of you for stopping by. As always, this was Emster Knows Books. Have a beautiful rest of your day, guys. Peace out.